But first up, I'm delighted to introduce Mr. Wheelhouse back for the second time. So please, Mr. Wheelhouse.
Well, good morning, everyone, and you'll be glad to hear that I'm not going to give you a lengthy political speech this morning, but it's a delight to be back here for CivTech 2 Demo Day, and you'll be, I'm sure, very keen to hear, as I am, from the companies involved with the programme later and their challenge sponsors. I remember very much the CivTech demo last year, this time last year, and I saw some really inspiring work going on from both the public sector's perspective in terms of commissioning work, but also from the new starts and technologists who were helping support colleagues in the public sector to deliver a really impressive range of projects. And as someone who's been formerly an environment minister, I was delighted to see what are being done with flood data through to someone who acts on behalf of constituents, and as all politicians do of all parties, helping those individuals who face homelessness. That there was really inspiring work that was being done as well with the third sector last year. So it was a really diverse range of projects, but it was a fascinating session to witness. And it's incredible to see how the programme has grown since then. We have a new crop of challenge sponsors and indeed companies getting involved, and some old friends from the beta programme as well. What I want to do today is really just to give a little bit of a, you saw Derek Mackay, the Finance Secretary in the video there, who's very, very keen on this programme, and clearly Derek has his hands on the purse strings, so for those of you in the public sector, I think you can see a sense of direction that Mr Mackay is very supportive of innovation this way. But I also want to just give my own personal perspective, endorsement, if you like, of this approach, because I know there will be many here, perhaps who've not yet engaged with CivTech from the public sector, who'll be wondering what this means for you, but we want to give you encouragement, we want to empower you to think differently, because we want to achieve a cultural change in the public sector. We want to deliver better services more efficiently, release funding for further investment in services as well, and so you can really be part of that. So I want to give, if you like, a bit of license to you to think differently and to engage with CivTech for the future. But whether you're an old friend of the CivTech programme or in this your first experience, I'd very much like to welcome you to this event. I know that you'll be blown away by the solutions and talent shown by CivTech 2.0 companies, the ongoing success of the beta programme companies, as we just heard from Alexander, and the daring public service challenge sponsors who have taken the opportunity to innovate through the CivTech programme. During the past 12 months, what started as a pilot has become a flagship innovation programme for the Scottish Government and wider public services. It is attracting international interest. Clearly, as Alexander's alluded to, we have interest from colleagues in the UK Government here today as well, and welcome to them. And indeed interest from governments from as far afield as Australia, with the Minister of State from Victoria being most impressed by the programme. So this is genuinely innovative. My counterpart from the French Government also has expressed interest in the programme. I would like to open with some personal observations of what has inspired me in my engagement with CivTech programme since 2016. As I said, you know, as many ministers would be able to tell you, you don't stay in one job, so you move from one post to another. And I've had experience as Environment Minister before, and seeing the information that was being presented around flood risk, I know is a really critical issue for SEPA, and I commend SEPA for being brave and taking forward the work they have done in developing mapping of that data through the beta programme. There's also work which has been done. I mean, who of us all here, whether you're a cyclist or a driver, wants to make sure that public services are able to identify potholes before they are created. Again, in that beta programme, there was important work going on there. So there's just a couple of examples. But all 9 beta companies delivered in 16 weeks, as they have this year. And those CivTech beta companies have gone on to create, as Alexander said, an additional 33 jobs. Now that is really important. We're talking about startups getting a chance to get some really impressive clients earlier in their business life than they might otherwise do. That will, I'm sure, have downstream benefits for those companies, being able to market themselves abroad, to say, look, here we have done work with our own government. That is a very important thing if you're an exporter, to be able to demonstrate you've capitalised on your home market to convince someone in an overseas market that you're actually worth speaking to. And so that is a very important thing that has happened in its own right, and I'm sure those companies will go on to grow and to take on additional employees. But we've also seen with CivTech 2.0, when companies' challenges and the growth of reputation of CivTech programme has brought forward some really exciting projects. Again, because of my previous experience of raptor persecution as Environment Minister, I'm delighted to see the work that's being done there to tackle a really intractable problem for those of us who care about such matters, because it's almost impossible at this point in time to actually to solve the crimes against wildlife in remote rural areas because of the obviously the high degree of rurality that's involved with the crime scene. And also, it's often difficult to point out exactly when it happened and how it happened. And the work that's being done through the current round of CivTech 2.0 is going to give us hopefully better information that will help track the loss of birds and be able to prosecute crimes more effectively. Someone who is an economist before I was elected used SIMD data all the time. It's fantastic to see a project coming forward which is helping to understand how we can better use data to help inform public service investment and that kind, looking at how deprivation is linked to education, health outcomes, housing, other areas. That's hugely important. It will help us all have a more successful future in terms of planning public services. Looking at how we monitor visitor numbers, it's very difficult in remote locations, ones which aren't manned, to understand the impact of investment in tourism and visitor services on the economy. And as someone who was responsible in my previous post for family law, seeing a project which is taking forward, making it easier for couples who are unfortunately going through divorce or family separation to get the information they need to de-stress that process and to make sure that there's hopefully a happier outcome for all involved, most importantly the children, of course, of families where that's happening. So these were all inspiring examples I heard about when I visited the CivTech studio. But looking to the future, I want to see CivTech, of course, grow and to take on more work, but also to see more programmes like CivTech and more opportunities for Scotland's emerging tech talent to work alongside public services. And because I believe this model can work across the public sector, paving the way for a new sustained model of working, better products and services, obviously, better economic development opportunities for our small companies, as I've mentioned, and better value and better experiences for our citizens and service users, those three audiences, if you like, that Alexander was referring to. But before I hand back to Alexander, I would like to touch on why CivTech matters to me as Minister for Business, Innovation and Energy, because for me and for my colleagues in my team, it's more than a programme for digital innovation in public services. It's about how we rethink wider public services for citizens, how we position ourselves as a nation as well. And it may be, obviously in these sceptical times, an odd thing for me to say, and I have to remind you, but politicians, I'm convinced of all parties, I disagree with them fundamentally, on some of the opposition parties and how we come up with solutions, but I do believe we generally get into this because we want to see better public services and to see better outcomes for the people we represent. And that is a very important objective for us, so it's really exciting to see a programme such as this helping tackle some of the most intractable problems we have in delivery of public services by engaging our most innovative companies that we have in Scotland. Because I believe that Scotland has both the opportunity and the talent to be a world leader in innovation and public purpose. And as you'll hear from Professor Mariana Mazzucato, who will explore this later this afternoon. And the citizens of countries whose governments can successfully embed innovation will, I genuinely believe, reap the rewards, those service improvements, the better outcomes, because I'm very much an outcomes person rather than an inputs person, greater satisfaction with life on part of our citizens, and the ability to achieve their full potential. And that's what we're all about, and I hope those in the public sector community in this audience will identify that. Getting it right here first acts as a beacon to other nations as well. So Scotland can lead by deploying technology and help other countries who are not able to access the talent that we have in Scotland to be able to learn from what we're doing. And as been noted on Alexander's travels and government visits to the studio, that is something that's really exciting people. We must not build in isolation, of course, as in CivTech. We must involve public sector, the third sector, the private sector, the investment sector, academia, civic groups and citizens. So it's great to see such a range of people here today to take part in today's event. And this is an opportunity for leadership, and the role of the public sector as a springboard for innovation is absolutely crucial. The Scottish Government has about £30 billion a year we spend in the Scottish economy on your behalf. What we need to do is try and use that spending power however we can to impact on the economy, to create jobs and wealth and prosperity that will support citizens. That's a positive cycle, creating a virtuous cycle. And clearly through initiatives like CivTech, we can help create opportunities for those pioneering companies. And it's an opportunity for leadership for those of you in this audience who are in management and political leadership roles in your organisations to make a difference. And it comes down to a question of choice. How badly do we want to change and how badly do we want to lead? Whether as a nation, a government, a public service or an individual, it's an opportunity for new starts, it's opportunities to support innovative businesses, to use our spending power to grow the economy, to create that prosperity and to sustain through creating a greater tax take, through a more buoyant economy, the public service budgets that we all need to have in place. So I hope you leave today's event inspired to step up to the challenge of change and leadership, that you dare to be different and dare to work differently. As we heard in one of the contributions in the video, that if we keep on doing the same thing, Einstein's definition of insanity was to keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And if we want to make a genuine step change in our economic performance, in the quality of services that we provide for our citizens, we need to think differently and to build on the strengths we have, but involve and engage those who are able to help us with innovation. And I hope you leave inspired to do that, whether you're here as a public service leader from the investment community, academic or private partner. And if you haven't had the chance to visit the Inspiring CivTech studio yet, I strongly recommend you do, particularly if you're a public service leader interested in scoping a challenge for CivTech 3.0. Because it's not stopping here today. This is merely just trying to whet your appetite to get involved in later stages of projects. So we do need a cultural change. I hope it's one that you feel excited to be part of. And that in closing, I wish to congratulate again everyone involved, particularly our companies who are coming up with the exciting innovations that we are going to talk about today, but also the challenge sponsors for having the courage to take that step and to behave differently. And to reaffirm my own commitment and that of my colleagues in the Scottish Government to world-class innovation in Scotland, to delivering the better services we all want to see and to making sure we create exciting opportunities for our new starts and tech companies. So I thank you for your attention. I wish you every success today. I hope it's a great event for all of those who are showcasing what they can do, and they're excited to tell you about all they've achieved to date. But enjoy the day and hopefully come back inspired next year as repeat customers. And we'll hear about how successful this latest round has been. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister.